Today we're going to look at the top 23 cards from 1989 Donruss. If you're new to this channel, this is Chasing Junk, where we look at the junk wax era and other things from that era, not just sports cards. But today we want to look at the value of the 1989 Donruss. This was the height of the junk wax era. Now, when I collect cards, we're looking here at this 89 Donruss set. I'm going to be looking for rookie cards, Hall of Famers, dollar bin or $5 bin cards. And in this particular set, there are 80 rookie cards, 53 Hall of Fame cards, nine from the dollar bin, and only one that's worth $5 or more. You can probably guess which card that is. But when we add those all together, we're looking at like 140 cards that are, collectible from this set. Now, there's over 600 cards in the set, but when we look at what does that translate to, really, there's going to be two or three good cards in every pack on average. And by good cards, I mean something worth collecting. That doesn't mean it's valuable necessarily, but a lot of people like to collect rookie cards and Hall of Famers, and there are plenty of that here in this set. So if we look at eBay sales, if you want to buy these packs, so if you want to get cards, your best bet is to just buy a sealed set. You can get one of those for between $20 and $30 on eBay, and that's probably your best bet. Or just if you want individual cards, buy them whether it's ungraded or graded, especially if you're not looking for a PSA 10. If you're okay with an ungraded 7, 8, or 9, you can get those dirt cheap on eBay. So that's the best way to do it if you're just going for nostalgia. But if you like to open packs like I do, you can buy a box like this between $33 and $43. So it's relatively affordable. That's about $1 a pack. And for the experience of opening these up and trying to hit one of, the one good card or some of your favorite players of all time, relatively inexpensive to do that. A solo pack with 32 cards is going to run you between $5 and $10 on eBay. A rack pack is about the same amount. And a single pack, of course, it's only about $1 when you buy the whole box. But if you're looking to just get an individual pack, your best bet is to bundle that with other Donruss packs or just to search for junk wax era and get like a lot of 300 cards or something. If you want to buy a single pack, it's still going to cost you $3 to $5 just because people don't really sell individual packs of these really, really cheap and not very amazing packs, right? And so you're better off just to either buy the box or individual cards or get it as a lot. Now we're going to look at the top 23 sold cards on eBay and not the individual cards because actually most of those would be the same card. And we're not going to look at cards that are autographed or error cards. We're looking at if you had a box of 1989 Donruss and you're just opening these up and you're wondering how much are they worth, we're going to see what people were willing to pay for the graded version. So these are for PSA 10s, and we could do a different one of these with just ungraded cards, but it would be so boring because they're just not worth anything. So this one at least gives us some variety. Our first card here, we're looking at the top 23. Number 23 is Vince Coleman. Now this one is awesome because when we look up here on the scoreboard, our low book, high book, like according to Beckett and other sports sources, is 1 cent. Like this is a common card. Yet somebody bid and paid $55 for this card. So you have to assume that this was a Vince Coleman fan, and I get it. I was a huge Vince Coleman fan. I was a big fan of the Cardinals in the late 80s. That was my team, and they went to the series in 87. Vince Coleman, as a rookie in 85, had over 100 stolen bases, the only rookie to do that, and had over 100 his first 3 seasons. So a collector might want that. Now, where I come up with the PSA 7, 8, 9, and 10, that is from, oh, what's it called? Let me see here. Sports Cards Pro. is the website that I use, and they give you kind of the average over the last several months. So over the last several months, no one has purchased a 7, 8, 9, or it says not even a 10, but we know at least one person has because it sold for $50. So that's number 23 here in our countdown. Number 22 is Craig Biggio. This was his rookie card, and he went on to make the Hall of Fame, and so that's why I put these two little logos up here, just so we know a little bit more about Craig Biggio. Now, he has had some sales over the last several months, but you can see again, if you want to collect this card, you can get it in a PSA 8 for $3. And where right now it costs like $30 just to grade a card, you are better off just purchasing a PSA 7 or 8 for most of these cards than opening packs and then trying to get a PSA 10 and grade it. Even if you get a PSA 10, you're going to lose money on the transaction because that's what it costs to grade. So somebody did pay $50 for this card, and that's number 22. Now to 21, we have the Gary Sheffield. Now, I remember back in 1989, this was a big pull at the time. Gary Sheffield was a future star. He was very popular, and so this was one of the top cards way back then. I should open up one of my old Beckett's and see what it was worth back then. But as we can see up here on the scoreboard, not a lot of value, similar to our last card here, where you could get a PSA 9 at just $6. The average PSA 10 is 34, yet somebody was willing to pay 50 in March of 2025. So now 20, this one is crazy to me. I doubt anyone besides this one person. Well, and it got 8 bids, and I just don't understand this because this is not the era card. This is not a rookie card. This is just a common card of Billy Ripken, but somebody paid $52.10 and someone else was bidding on it. So to get a PSA 10, no one's bought a PSA 7, 8, or 9 lately. I doubt anyone else has bought a 10. As you can see, the average is 52.10, and that's what this one was. So this is probably the only sold graded Ripken over the last year or so. But somebody wanted it for their collection, and they paid $52. All right, number 19. This one probably will go up as Ricky Henderson is recently deceased, and so the value of his cards are probably on the rise. But if we look over the last few months, this is worth a little bit more. A PSA 9 going for $10, a PSA 8 for about $10, and the average on a PSA 10 at $37. This one got a couple of bids and sold for $54.97. Great player, Hall of Famer Ricky Henderson, and that was our number 19. Number 18, Don Mattingly, probably should be in the Hall of Fame. Great player, Donnie Baseball, and his cards are around that same range with the PSA 10 averaging $34.99, but this one selling for $59 back in March. Now at 17, we have a few Consegos on this list. This is the one that was at the end of the set that was a 40-40 club. And I remember opening this card, pulling this card back in 1989. It was a thrill for me. I was a huge Canseco fan at the time. I loved the stolen bases, just like with Vince Coleman. Seeing someone hit 40 homers and still 40 bases for the first time was really, really impressive with Canseco. And somebody was willing to pay $60 to get this card in a PSA 10. Number 16 is Bo Jackson. I was also a big fan of him, of course, with the crossover sports. One of the greatest athletes of all time. And his cards were pretty good. When you look at the average here on the PSA 10, this was $50. So this is probably our first card where there's some competition there. And if you want to get a Bo Jackson in a PSA 10, you're going to be looking at $50. So this one went for $61.60, but the average wasn't much lower than that. Number 15 on our list, here's the other Canseco. This is the MVP card, and I decided to include these inserts because these were in the normal packs. And so while the series went to, I think, 605, it wasn't the standard 660 like a lot of the Donrusses. There were 26 bonus MVP cards, one from each team, and Canseco got this MVP card, and this went for higher than his normal card in the set. So 67, 66, and you see the average here on the Canseco is 57. So now we're seeing the values starting to go up here on our countdown list. Another MVP in at number 14 with Will Clark. His sold for 66.99, and you see the average was right at around 50 bucks. However, if you look at the PSE 7, 8, and 9, they're a little lower, and that's because he's just not as in demand as some of these other players. So I was really surprised to see him this high on the list. But great first baseman there in Will Clark at number 14. Number 13 is another rookie card, Hall of Famer Randy Johnson. Quite frankly, I'm surprised this isn't higher on the list. And when we look at our PSA 9 at $14, that average is a little higher. Our PSA 10 average at 63 is higher. And then this sold for 70. So this is a consistent sell in the $60 to $70 range. And it's because one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and this is his rookie card. So even though it's the heart of the junk wax era, it still is a valuable card if you can pull it in a 10. At number 12, we have another rookie here in Chris Sabo, and I love that this is the Diamond Kings. I loved the Diamond Kings series, those art pieces at the beginning of the set, and you gotta love the goggles on this. It sold for $72, and the average was actually even higher. So if we go back several more months, something sold even higher than $72 to take that average up to 79. But there we have Chris Sabo at 12. At number 11, we have Barry Bonds, of course, not in the Hall, but one of the greatest hitters of all time as far as power, and just a phenomenal career. $73 for this card. Of course, not his rookie. I think this is his third year. Yeah, probably his third year card, but in this eBay winning, it says a low population at 158. I don't know if that's really low for there's just not a ton of graded 1989 cards except for our number one card, just because there aren't value here. They just produce too many of these cards. All right, number 10 is a similar one here. Clemens had been pitching for a few years. Great player, also didn't make the Hall, but one of the all-time greats. And this went for $75 and brings him in at number 10. Number 9 is another phenomenal rookie card here with Kurt Schilling. This is, if we look at the low book and high book, the high book being $4 here, I think this is probably, as an ungraded card, one of the top 3 or 4 cards in this set. So Randy Johnson probably wasn't far behind, but this might even be the second best card in the whole set. But when we look at how many were graded and what they're going for, the average is just $45. But somebody was willing to pay $80 for this one once they dropped it from the $100 offering point. So, somebody wanted to get that Schilling in their collection, and they got it at $80. All right, number 8, we have another rookie here, and of course, rookies are going to dominate the top of this list. We've got a Greg Jeffries. This was another one that was a great pull back in 1989. He had a lot of hype and had a good career, but not a Hall of Fame career. And so this card was bid or purchased at $86.99, but you see the average was way down 37. So this is kind of an outlier. Probably shouldn't be this high on the list, but somebody was willing to pay that high ticket price. Number 7, we have David Cohn. This was even more surprising. When you look, there haven't been any sales in PSA 7, 8, and 9, but there was one random purchase at $90. Otherwise, pretty much a common card here. And so this was shocking for me that it made the top 10 at number 7, but that happens, It's worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it. Number 6 was Fernando. I remember when I first started collecting in 86, 87. He was a really big deal at that time and had a pretty good run there in the late 80s. Somebody was willing to pay $99.99 for this card, which puts him in at number 100. And when we look at his PSA 9 and 8, those are relatively high as well. So, and I don't know why. This was, towards the end of his career, or at least the middle of his career, and not a Hall of Famer, nothing particularly significant. So I'm not sure why the value is so high here on Fernando. Number five, this of course is even more surprising. Common card here with Mike Greenwell. It is a Diamond King, but not necessarily a notable career here, at least compared to many of the others on this list. It didn't even show this had been graded at all in a PSA 10, so I was surprised to see that somebody paid $100 for this Diamond King in a PSA 10. It was the first card of the set, and maybe that's why is somebody just wanted to have a graded set, and this was number one. I don't know, but crazy that that came in at number five. Now, as we get down to number four, here's a card you expect to see in the top five. Nolan Ryan, arguably the best pitcher of all time, and somebody paid 112.50 for this card. This, was towards the end of Ryan's career, but because he had such a phenomenal career, a lot of people were interested. You see, it got 19 bids here. A lot of people interested, but I was surprised. You can get a PSA 9 for $12. That's what you want. And I've noticed this with a lot of Ryan's cards, even in the early 80s. If you're willing to get a PSA 7, 8, or 9, you can get them pretty cheap and have an awesome Hall of Famer in your collection in a relatively high grade, and I think that's the way to go with some of these cards. Averaging 95 for a PSA 10, so must not have a huge pop, but great to see him there at number four. Number three is a little bit surprising. Kirk Gibson, not a Hall of Famer, but one of the all-time greats, and this isn't near his rookie year or anything. And so when we look at the other numbers, you'd expect to see hit this ranked lower to the 20s or 30s, but it's locking in at number three because somebody was willing to pay 127.50, and I'm guessing someone else paid 70 or $80 because our average over the last several months is $104. So he's had a few that have gone up in a Gem Mint 10, and people are willing to pay a premium for it. So there you go with your Kirk Gibson. At number two, another all-time great Hall of Famer, Ryan Sandberg. And this one, now we see a jump here in value, 177.50 for this card. And the average over the last few months have been $150. But again, if you want to get this in a PSA 8, only $3. So that's where I would go if I was a collector. Um, But if you can pull this in a 10, it looks like people are willing to pay a premium for it. So as I open my box of 1989 Donruss, I'm definitely going to be looking for a Sandberg, hoping to pull a mint condition one, because you could make some money off this card. Now, number one is not going to surprise anyone. While it's not the Upper Deck card, even in Donruss, 1989 Griffey is a fabulous card. This was his rookie year, Hall of Famer, and somebody paid $750 to get this Gem Mint 10 in April of 2025. They paid more than they should have. The average over the last several months has been in the $400 range, so they shelled out a few extra $100, probably because they wanted it now. But this is one where if you want to pull a Griffey Jr., a PSA 9 is worth $30, a PSA 8 is $13. This is one of the most graded cards in all of Major League Baseball history. But you could purchase one at a PSA 8 for under $15 if you want to add this Griffey to your collection. And that's the way to go. Now, of course, you could open a whole box and maybe pull a few Griffies, send them off for grading, and if you're lucky, you get a 9 or a 10. A 9, you break even on the value. And if you can pull a 10, you're going to make a lot of money. So that could be fun to do that, but just that's a pretty major gamble. Well, this is the end of our top 23 countdown. This is my first of this kind of series that I've done, so I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Did you enjoy watching this? Would you like to see others? And if so, What other set from the junk wax era would you like me to do next?